In this week's video, I'm going to show you how to add a pop of color into your acrylic pour painting after it dries. In last week's video, I showed you how to make these beautiful dip and smash balloon flowers by changing an old technique, and boy, did it work well. This week, I'm going to show you how to use this beautiful painting as a backdrop and create some beautiful flowers on top. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share on this video. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to another video. So last week, you saw me test out stamping on flowers with a balloon using a paper plate and some fluid acrylic paint that I had thinned down with just some American Floetrol on this arch canvas. I keep wanting to call it a tombstone. I guess it's just the season, you know, but anyway. Arch canvas sold at Hobby Lobby. I have it sideways because it's hard for me to fit it in frame with the camera going the other way. But anyway, I wanted to show you how beautifully it dried. And in my opinion, this was a lot easier to do than your traditional balloon smashes where you put puddles of paint on the canvas and then smash the balloon in them, because you're able to control how much paint you're putting on the canvas. Sometimes when you put that puddle of paint, you know, in different spots, you're left with these ridges or pockets of deep paint. Like there's too much in certain areas, and then you gotta keep smashing the balloon to try to flatten it out, and then before you know it, you've ruined your pretty flowers. This way, it worked really, really well. So I have just put the paint in a puddle on a paper plate, dipped the balloon into that puddle, and then smashed it onto the canvas. And it just worked really, really well. And you could see it dried beautifully. So now, as I promised you last week, we're going to take this canvas a step further and add a little more interest to it. The back here, remember I was swiping with a paper towel just to get kind of a distressed look. That came out perfect. Again, I was almost envisioning an old weathered barn door with these beautiful flowers framing it. So that's kind of the look that I went for. And I really like it a lot. So now we're going to finish up, and I'm going to walk you through step by step all of the products that I'm going to be using and show you how I did it. Okay, so here we go. So the first thing I'm going to be using is a stencil. I have this pretty flower stencil, and I thought that these flowers right here would look really pretty sitting on top of this stamped background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a sponge to sponge on this shape, and then I'm going to hand paint each flower. Maybe use a little bit of glitter. We'll zhuzh it up, and let's see how that comes out first. If you're looking to stencil on flowers or block out any type of color in your acrylic pour painting that you're going to be working on, you want to use something like a heavy body white acrylic paint, or you can use something like gesso. You want it to have some body though, so that when you sponge it on to the stencil, it will block out all of that color that you're trying to cover up on the first round. If you use something like a medium body paint, there's a chance that you'll still be able to see the color from the original acrylic pour through the stenciled object, and you might have to do a couple of layers before it covers. But with this Liquitex brand heavy body titanium white acrylic paint or gesso, all you need to do is one layer of stenciling, and it will cover it, as you'll see as soon as I lift up this stencil. You're also going to notice just how slow I'm doing this. I don't want to rush and get paint outside of the stenciled area. So I'm taking my time and with even pressure, just applying the paint. Taping the stencil down will help it stay in place. I do sometimes just try to place it on the canvas and quickly sponge on a shape, and it always bites me when I do that. So just use some masking tape, lightly press it down on the canvas. It will not rip up your painting or anything like that. And just up and down motion as you see. Just push down and pounce that color onto the shape. So I decided to add these flowers in random areas, and I'm just so excited for you to see how pretty this came out. And it really wasn't that hard. I mean, I did a lot of hand painting in the end, and I show you everything step by step, of course. But yeah, this was really a fun thing to try, and I hope you guys try it. So now I'm just going to show you here. I accidentally went outside of the stencil area and got some white paint on my canvas. As long as you get it right away with a wet paper towel, it will wipe right off. So I'm just showing you there. Pay attention to those outside borders should you get any paint. It will come off very easily. So now that I have my flowers stenciled on in the places that I want them, now it's time to paint them and add a little bling, of course. So I chose a deep magenta and a lighter pink shade of Amsterdam acrylic paints to create these flowers. It did take me multiple coats of paint to cover up the white because now I am using a medium body paint that is semi-transparent. So depending on the type of paint you use, you may have to do a few layers. I didn't have this color in a heavy body paint that was opaque, so it's fine. It's, just something to relax and have some fun with. We have to remember that's why we are doing this, right? Just to de-stress and unwind and just get our minds off of things. So I painted each of the petals multiple times with this one color, and then I came in with a little pouncing brush and pounced it in, and it really gave it a nice effect by doing this. I also colored in the center of the flowers with a little bit of light pink before I added my special glitter concoction that I made to those centers. I will be showing you all of this, by the way. I'm just kind of walking you through it here. So I'm not going to show you painting every single flower because it's just a repeat of what you're seeing here. I implore you, just use your imagination. You can do so many different things. You can do a fall painting with some fall leaves or maybe pine cones for Christmas. Yeah, it's just so many ideas for something like this where you can get creative. So I painted the little center parts of the flower that hot pink color. And now here's my glitter concoction that I made with some clear Elmer's glue and some beautiful pink glitter. And I just mixed those two together and I carefully applied it to each of the petals of the center petals there. And once it dried, I did another layer. So there's 2 layers of glitter on each petal, just in the center. I wish you could see this painting in person because the balloon flower areas there's no justice on camera. They're so pretty in person if you just sit there and look at it. There's just so many different shapes, and yeah, it's really, really pretty. So here we are the next day. I decided to come in with a deep, deep magenta and just add a little shading around each petal. And then once I was done doing this, it was time to add a little bit of resin. Now for me today, I used my resin for two reasons. I used it to cover my painting and seal it in, but it also acted as a glue for me. I'll tell you all about that in just 1 minute. But before we move on to the resin part, I want to put a little white center in the center of each of these flowers. So for that, I'm using my Folk Art Dots paint. You could buy these at Michael's, Hobby Lobby. All they are is like a puffy paint. So you just put a little dot there and it dries like a little raised dot. And the last thing I did before I moved on to the resin was I wanted to place little veins, well, not veins, like cracks of gold in my barn door. Because remember, I wanted this to look like a weathered barn door with flowers that were kind of framing it. So I took a postcard from the mail and cut it into a little piece here, dipped it in the 24 karat gold, and then tapped it on the plate 2 times because I didn't want it to be a strong mark, just a very light gold mark. And in the finished piece, you're going to see how pretty this looks. So now, onto the resin. I used my resin for two reasons: to seal the painting and to glue my rhinestones down. So this is KS resin. It's the liquid art resin. I use this. I love it. I've used it for 5 years now. Price is great. I got a discount for it. If you need to use that discount, it's in the description. But anyway, it's a long working resin, so you don't have to worry about rushing or it heating up on you, anything like that. But it comes with 2 bottles in the kit. If you need to make 10 ounces of resin, then you're using 5 ounces of one bottle, 5 ounces of the other bottle, mixing them together really good for 3 minutes, making sure to scrape down the sides of your cup and scrape off your stick. Incorporate that all back into it and just keep mixing until it's no longer cloudy and it is clear. Okay. I usually take resin and pour it into another cup and continue to mix if there's a large amount of it, because I want to make sure I get it all mixed up good. If you don't mix it up good, it will not cure right. So you have to make sure that it's not cloudy and that you've really mixed it up well. You'll be able to tell. It'll look clear with a whole bunch of bubbles. Anyhow, after I mixed that up, I just pour it onto the canvas. I spread it out with my hand, and then we torch the bubbles. Now, you can use the popsicle stick to spread it out. I prefer my hand because you can feel with your hand if there's any bare spots that you're missing on the canvas. So just plop your gloved hand into the resin and just start spreading it around. What I usually do is I'll spread it up to the edge and just get it all covered on the top first. And then I'll come back and run my hand along the sides so that I can cover the sides as well. You could also pour it on and tilt it around, although that way you may waste a lot of resin and it's not cheap. So the best way to do it is just with your hand. You can feel where the bare spots are. And you'll notice when I'm doing this, there's a bunch of lines from my fingers through the resin. Don't worry about that because resin is self-leveling. So even though it's uneven in some areas, it will all level out on its own. So again, just push it up to the edges, get the entire top coated, and then come back and rub down your sides. Give them a good massage till you feel that they're nice and wet on the side there. Come back with your torch and pop the air bubbles. I usually pop the air bubbles, wait about 5 minutes, pop them again, and wait another 5 minutes, pop them a third time, and then I'll put it in a covered area to cure overnight. However, I need to add my gemstones before that's cured because I'm using this as a glue. So here we go. While the resin is wet, I'm plopping on those gemstones, and here's a quick peek. All right, I want to show you this background before I go any further. How pretty is that? See, all you need is a little gold paint and a piece of paper, like a thick piece of paper, like an advertisement that comes in the mail, a little card, business card. You could do something cool like that. So, excuse me, flowers. Why are you shimmering so pretty, distracting me? Anyway, we're going to let this dry. And then when I come back, I'm going to show you the final results. I love those little flowers. They're so pretty. The sparkle. Sorry, I'm probably making you guys dizzy. Anyway, I'll be back. And now it's time for the finished piece. Look at that resin finish. Woo-wee. Look at that. You can see the sky in my painting. You see that? This is why I love resin. It's like putting a sheet of glass over your artwork to protect it. Look at these flowers. Oh my goodness, they're so pretty. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I know probably in the first video people were like, But this is what I had in mind. The abstract balloon flowers look beautiful. The little stencil flowers. I'm very happy. Very, very pretty painting. In the background too, you can't really see it out here. But like these little, maybe you can see it a little bit. Flecks of gold lines going through the barn door. Beautiful. So I have 2 more of these canvases that I have ideas for. Can't wait to show you those. They're going to be totally different, each one. And so I hope you come back next Sunday. I hope I can get the next one done by next Sunday. If not, there will be a different type of video, but I do have 2 more coming. Anyway, if you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. I have a ton of tutorials on my channel. If you look under the playlist, especially if you're a beginner struggling, there's a Back to Basics beginners type playlist which teaches you so many things about acrylic pouring and different techniques and the hows, the whys, the whats, all of that. Also, for those resin lovers out there, I think I'm going to start diving back into that again a little bit. Not totally all resin, but just one here or there for you guys. And yeah, a lot of stuff coming in the future here. So be sure you're subscribed and the notification bell is on. And most importantly, make sure it's set or checked off on the word all. YouTube automatically defaults the subscriptions to personalized, which means you don't get all of the notifications. So you got to check off the word all manually. Anyway, I'm going to stop yapping. I'll be back next Sunday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a new video. And until then, I love you all. Thank you so very much for joining me. And until then, again, happy pouring.